Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Matt and I do like video games, and in today's video we're talking all about Hellblade 2 because previews are out and they seem pretty damn positive, and there's also some updates on performance targets for consoles for Hellblade 2, so let's get into it. Up first, I think we should be getting the bad news out of the way, or at least the news that everybody's freaking out about online right now, and that is the fact that Hellblade 2 on consoles will be 30 FPS only. There will be no option for a 60 FPS mode for Hellblade 2. Now, my stance on this is I am disappointed in this. I think it's kind of silly that there's not an option for it. That being said, does it surprise me that there's not an option for it? Not really. Am I surprised that Ninja Theory would only have one mode that prioritizes high fidelity over a 60 FPS target? Not really. And like I mentioned earlier, especially given the whole marketing for the game being, hey, we're one of the best looking games ever made, and considering the kind of game that it is, it honestly kind of makes sense. Like I said, it would be cool to see a 60 FPS option. That would be the most ideal thing, but if they didn't put it in there, I'm not going to lose sleep over it for the kind of game that it is. I mean, we're not talking about Hi-Fi Rush. This isn't like a fast-paced action game where you need all the response time you can get. It's a pretty slow, methodical game that has a little bit of combat in it. But let's get to the actual good news here, and that is these previews for Hellblade 2. Because, like I said in the intro, these previews, all the previews I've seen, VGC, IGN, and GameSpot, all three of those previews are pretty glowing previews for Hellblade 2. And Xbox Wire also released a new blog post for Hellblade 2, and it starts with this. It says, in the run-up to its May 21st launch on Xbox, PC, and Game Pass, we'll be bringing you the story of Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 from inside the studio itself, as well as stories and insights from Hellblade's creative leads. This is Ninja Theory's ultimate form, filled with industry-leading talent, groundbreaking technology, and one of the most unique approaches to game development you'll ever see, to fulfill the ultimate goal, the pursuit of true immersion. And hey, that sounds fantastic, right? I mean, obviously, they're just kind of fluffing up the game. That's their job. They're trying to get you excited for the game. They're giving you a bunch of buzzwords in that intro, make you feel good and everything. And hats off to you. It's a pretty good job. But the thing that I really want to talk about from this Xbox Wire post, in fact, it's from two separate articles. It's from this and one other article, is when they talked about the combat. And I'll bring it up here. It says, capturing combat. That energy is felt heavily through the revamped combat in Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. It shares a lot of DNA with the first game, those careful, calculated fights, but every brawl feels so intentional and visceral this time. When Senua enters combat, we understand every foe standing in front of her, the strength she needs to overcome it, and most importantly, the struggle in every swing, made to feel like you're really there with her as she pushes through. This isn't combat designed to make you feel like the untouchable hero by mowing through hordes. Every fight is one-on-one. That's the key thing I want to focus on. But it says every fight is one-on-one, expertly woven into her adventure to align you with her persistence, whether it's a monumental brawl against a known enemy or a random scuffle out of nowhere. And another thing I wanted to read really quick is from the GameSpot preview for Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. And this ties directly into what the Xbox Wire blog post was just talking about with the combat. It says, the reason why it's one-on-one is because we wanted Senua to feel vulnerable. Even though there's only ever one target, it often feels like Senua's surrounded as the camera zooms in for very close, over-the-shoulder perspective, and the whispering advice of the psychosis-created Furies bombard Senua. The music contributes to this as well, building in volume and rhythm the longer a fight plays out, until the reverberating heartbeat of the background vocals swell with the killing blow. It's almost like the music itself is encroaching on you, only relieving the pressure once the fight is over. I could feel my heart racing during these moments where Senua would push past an attacker, momentarily putting Senua's opponent into a periphery where you can still kind of see them. But there's that brief moment of terror when you're frantically turning around to get the opponent back into full view. Now, all of this to me sounds awesome. I know the one thing I saw a lot with the first game was people kind of complaining about the way that the fighting worked. It felt repetitive for a lot of people, and even for myself, I didn't mind the fighting so much in the first game, but it did feel a little bit repetitive, especially once you got multiple enemies on screen. You're doing the same combos to each enemy, and it's kind of playing out the exact same way. I like the focus for Hellblade 2 with it being just one-on-one fights, because that does add a new layer to it. It doesn't feel so repetitive, or at least it shouldn't feel so repetitive, especially given the fact that they've kind of revamped the entire combat system to go along with this whole new one-on-one approach to combat. I also like the fact that they're putting the camera up close over the shoulder on Senwa, as opposed to pulling it back and letting you see more around you, because even though the fight's one-on-one, having it up close does give you the feeling, especially probably with the music and the psychosis and all the voices and everything in the game, especially with all of that going on, it probably does give you the feeling that there's a whole lot more around you that you can't see, which adds to the tension of each fight. And there's one article from Gaming Bolt that I would like to end this video with, and the title of this article is Senwa's Saga Hellblade 2 developer feels, quote, a lot of people prefer shorter games to 100-hour experiences. And listen, for me, it kinda depends, because I see what they're saying here. For a game like Hellblade 2, I don't want to be playing this game for 50 hours. I don't. I do not want to be doing that. That's not a diss against Hellblade. Hellblade's amazing, one of my favorite games of last generation. I'm sure this one's going to be amazing as well. But just the whole nature of the game, it would probably get pretty tiring after about the 20, 30 hour mark. It would probably get pretty damn tiring and pretty oppressive to keep playing. I mean, even for a game like God of War Ragnarok, I really loved Ragnarok, but there was a point about 70% of the way through the game where I was like, okay, half of this could just be cut out. Half of this is like filler to pack the time of the game is what it felt like. Although it did at the end, for like the last 2 hours, it managed to pick itself right back up, and it shot higher than it ever shot. It was a phenomenal ending to that game. But there was like a 2 to 3 hour period before that ending where it was like, okay, this doesn't need to exist. And I feel like that's especially true for a game like Hellblade. I mean, that's the last game you want to pad out time on a game just for the hell of it, because it is such a mentally draining game. Especially imagine being somebody with psychosis playing Hellblade and just dragging the game out for that person. That would be a horrible experience. So I understand what he's saying here, but I do think there's a little bit of context to be had. I mean, when you're talking about a game like Hellblade 2, I think he's very much spot on. But when you're talking about a game like, as of recent, Dragon's Dogma 2, I think, hey, the more the merrier, quite honestly. But I brought that up because I do want to know what you guys think about that, and I also want to know what you guys think about these previews for Hellblade 2. What do you think about the whole performance targets on console? Are you someone who's very upset about that? What are your thoughts? Leave that in the comments down below. Leave a like if you like the video, and if you're enjoying this kind of content and you want to stay up to date with it going forward over here on the channel, the best way to do that is consider subscribing. Consider ringing that notification bell, because it helps you stay up to date with everything that happens over here on the channel, and it helps promote me in the algorithm, helps push the videos out to way more people. I know I am coming up on the 3,000 watch hours needed to do channel memberships. I think it's like 3,000 watch hours in the past 365 days. And I'm coming up on that pretty quickly right now. So, eventually sometime down the line, there'll be some channel memberships, some live streams, some stuff like that. But for now, we're doing what we're doing. I'm really enjoying it. I appreciate anybody who's watching the content, leaving comments, leaving likes, supporting in any way that you can, sharing the videos out. It's very much appreciated. But with that being said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.